We realize that every sector, as far as our economy is concerned, relies massively on science and technology. We need to actually research the knowledge we obtain from those research.
Is it necessary at this point in time for Africa to push to be a superpower at the detriment of other sectors of the economy, at the detriment of the health sector, at the detriment of the agricultural sector?
These issues were not clearly related to the topic.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Yaz Intellectual Debate Show, the first of its kind right here, and I'm sure that everybody is anticipating as to what exactly is going to happen here today. We've already had some intellectually stimulating performances from a lot of the halls that have taken part in the competition so far, and I'm sure that today, as we gather here, we again are going to enjoy a lot of the intellectual argument right here on the Yaz Debate Show.
Okay, so this is the Knockouts edition, and we are live at KNUST here in Kumasi, the city that holds the spirit of the Ashanti region in the Golden Stool.
Exactly so. So we'll take a very short break here. When we are back, we introduce the host as well as our moderators for today.
'21st-century design. Made with durable materials, bristles crafted to reach in between your teeth, flexible, allows easy control. Introducing Yaz range of toothbrushes, made for every pocket. For bulk purchases, call 0302 235294. Yaz toothbrushes. Clean teeth, confident smile.
Welcome back from that break. Okay, so today we have two amazing halls competing on the show.
All right, so we have the Independence Hall from the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
Then I want everybody out there to know that Independence Hall is the first and then the best hall in KNUST, and then we are coming out to the debate competition to win massively.
I'm a Spartan, and when it comes to KNUST, we are the premier hall. When it comes to premier hall, we really mean that we are the first hall in KNUST.
Independence Hall is the best hall, and we are the best people for the job. We have great intellectuals in our hall, and we can represent our hall in the upcoming intellectual debate competition.
And then we are going to prove to the world that yes, we are going to make it to the highest level when it comes to this very competition.
We've won the NUC's VC Excellence Award 3 consecutive times. We have the best cadet on campus. The VC, the present VC, Obri Danso, is from our hall, and he's a great intellectual. Everyone can attest to the fact.
So I want you all to know that Independence Hall, we are coming with our lively brass band, the best brass band on campus. We are coming there to support our contestants to win this first competition, and I'm telling you that we are coming to win it. It's not for anybody, but for Independence Hall.
And we also have Alexander Kwapong from the University of Ghana, Lagos.
Alexander Kwapong Hall is the home of debate when it comes to the University of Ghana.
Alexander Kwapong Hall is made up of students who are quite knowledgeable in national issues and the like.
But when it comes to debates though,
you don't want to compete with us because we are the best. We've got other people who are going to make you confused.
This is where debate was started. This is where debate founded, right here in the University of Ghana.
We promise you nothing but the best. We promise you constructive debate, constructive analysis, critical thinking.
We are going to intellectually bring you down.
We are bringing a lot to bear in this intellectuals debate.
Oh yes, the intellectuals. So this upcoming debate, watch out for the winners. Who is it going to be? Of course, Alexander Kwapong Hall.
Bring your A game because you're ready for you. The intellectuals debate.
Wait for us, we got this. We are the intellectuals.
So for the motion that they're going to debate on, Africa will be a major superpower in the world if governments are able to pump in so much money in terms of science and technology. So exactly that's what we're going to debate.
Right there.
And Independence Hall are for the motion, and Alexander Kwapong Hall are against that particular motion. So without wasting my time, let's introduce our moderators for today. And we have Professor Koskia with us here. A round of applause for him. And again, we have Dr. Oseni Adams. Another round of applause for him. They are moderators for today, and they have been amazing so far in the competition.
Okay, so let's not forget to acknowledge our sponsors. This show is proudly brought to you by Lexter Ghana Limited, producers of Yars products. They have the Yars toothpaste and the Yars toothbrush. So if you want that sparkling white teeth, that fresh breath, confident enough to speak to anyone, anywhere, at any time, use the Yars toothpaste and the Yars toothbrush.
Exactly. So are we ready to have the two halls, Independence Hall and Alexander Kwapong Hall? Are we ready? Yes. Are we ready? Yes. And again, the slogan for this particular debate show is grooming great talent, great debaters. And so when I shout the Yards intellectuals, grooming great debaters. The Yards intellectuals,
Grooming great debaters.
the Yards intellectuals,
Grooming great debaters. Okay, a quick one. Okay, so the rules for the game is that when you hear the bell ring once, thank you, that means that you have done 1 minute of your time. When you hear the bell ring twice, that means that you have 2 minutes left to finish with your assertion. And when you hear the bell being rung continuously, it means that your time is up. And please, let us kindly desist from trying to put more assertions across when the bell is rung continuously.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we set the motion in place. And of course, first of all, speaking for the motion is Independence Hall. Shall we welcome them, the principal speaker, of course. Give a round of applause.
Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, co-debaters and fellow audience, a good morning to you all. Africa would become a world superpower if budget on science and technology outweighs all sectors of the economy. As Kester Kuda once said, the resolution of the true struggle for revolution does not lie on the table of negotiation or discussion, but on making efforts to make that change that is very necessary. Now we go on, first and foremost, we go on to definitions of major terms in the motion. Now we define Africa as the second most populous and second largest continent in the world, and then a superpower as an extremely powerful nation that is capable of influencing international events and then acts and policies of lesser nations. Now we describe a budget as an estimation of revenue that and expenses over a stipulated and specified period of time, and then science as the systematic and logical approach to discovering how things work in the universe. We define technology as the application of scientific knowledge, and the economy as the state of a country as regarding production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. Now we go on to our principal justification. Our principal justification is based on the neorealism, which is a theory that says power is the important factor in international relations, which suggests that Africa needs to be a superpower to play in the power politics, and science and technology is the basis for which Africa will follow this route. Now we go on 4 main issues in our burden of proof. Now we'll tell the House why Africa should become a superpower, how science and technology can make Africa a superpower, why science and technology should outweigh sectors in the economy, and the benefits of Africa being a superpower. So now we go to our first point. Why should Africa become a superpower? Now you see, talk about the cost-benefit analysis. You see, Africa has suffered over the years from the outside world based on human resources and our natural resources and the rest. Now we're going to also talk about duty of protection. You see, in as much as Africa has suffered, it is now our duty after realizing this to protect ourselves from the challenges the outside world paves to us. Now we also talked about restricting other hegemons. Hegemons are countries that pose some form of predominance over others through political and military means. So you see, you are trying to restrict hegemons from exercising much power on Africa. Now, according to some American, there are 5 monopolies that predict a country's growth. The first is the technological monopoly. Talk about the financial control of worldwide financial market. Talk about access to natural resources. Talk about media and communication. Talk about monopolies of weapons of mass destruction. Now you see, Africa is already vexed and has much of these natural resources. So you see, what you are trying to say is science and technology is the link to the 4 other monopolies I've mentioned, which further affirms that Africa should embrace science and technology. Now we go on to our second point: how science and technology can make Africa a superpower. Now, superpowers in the world are characterized by 4 main factors, which is first and foremost the economic growth and stability, the military strength, politics, and then culture. Now, how does science and technology affect economic growth and stability? Now, you see, the use of softwares and statistical applications that can be used to analyze growth in a nation based on the economy is what these established superpowers have been doing over the world in time. So you see, the World Bank can sit in Geneva and then give the growth index of Ghana based on some input that have been put into some softwares and the rest, which is based from what science and technology. Now we tell you about the military strength. You see, North Korea is now paving some sort of North Korea is gathering some sort of attention in the world because of their military armaments and what they have. Now we talk about culture. You see, through the use of media, through the radio and then television and social media, this outside world have been able to portray their culture to us here in Africa. So what we are saying is, through this media, we are going to also portray our culture to them. And so this is how science and technology is going to help Africa become a superpower. Now we go on to why science and technology should outweigh other sectors in the economy. Now you see, first and foremost, we talk about interdependence. So you see, here is why, when you talk about interdependence, you are trying to say that, you see, all other sectors of the economy, agriculture, health, education, they all have a dependence on science and technology. So for instance, when we pump in much money into agriculture to boost the agricultural sector, and probably maybe the production of cocoa increases from 1,000 bags, maybe 1,200 bags. Now when we ignore the science and technological aspect of post-harvest technology, how we use to preserve this cocoa? What would be the essence of the increase in production? Now also talk about education. You see, if you learn everything in the classroom and then there is no way for you to apply what you've learned, then what is the essence of what you've learned? So there is an interdependence of all these economic sectors on science and technology. Now we also tell you about no superpower in the world has overlooked science and technology in its development. You see, the US allocates about 10% of its expenditure to science and technology through education and energy, while Africa's budget either ignores or allocates very inadequate funds to science and technology. We also talk about productivity and efficiency. You see, we have come through the Industrial Revolution where we've moved from using hand to produce stuff to the use of machines. So let's consider the scenario of imagine if science and technology is being implemented in this local sector. Now we talk about also the benefits of Africa being a superpower. Now we talk about the first point being brain drain prevention. You see, this is where our locals travel outside the world and then contribute their knowledge and then their strength to what is going on outside and not in our state. We also talk about promotion of indigenous and local markets. You see, when local markets are being promoted, then it helps our economy. Now we also talked about fulfillment of aim. You see, the AU has an aim to promote free trade in the African sub-region. So if that is going to be one benefit of Africa being a superpower. Now we also tell you about promotion of our values and promotion of our interests. You see, during the 9/11 attacks, you see, the US invaded Iraq after that. They felt that they had to justify themselves from what those terrorists who destroyed the World Trade Center did. So they decided to invade Iraq. Whereas a UN delegation that has been sent to Iraq couldn't come up with any evidence as to that Iraq was producing weapons of mass destruction. But the US, being a superpower, went on by its own interest by going into Iraq and then invading Iraq and then proceeding with that. So now we proceed on to tell you about what would happen if science and technology is not embraced. So my supporting speaker will come to explain that. So what we've been able to say so far is we've been able to explain to the House why Africa should become a superpower based on the problems we are facing right now and the things that we have that can make us a superpower. We talked about how science and technology can make Africa a superpower through the use of education and all those stuff. And then why science should outweigh other sectors. We talk about the rippling effect of science and technology. So if you boost science and technology, in a way, talking about, let's say, agriculture and then medicine. You see, if we boost the science and technological aspect of agriculture and post-harvest technology used to preserve these materials, this can in turn come into the health aspect or the pharmaceutical aspect where we learn how to preserve food and all those stuff. So we've been able to tell the House all this, and then the benefits of Africa being a superpower. It will reduce the brain drain in the system, then it will be the promotion of our interests. So until the opposition is able to prove to the House why any other sector above this, we are proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Principal Speaker for the motion. We now call on the Principal Speaker against the motion. A round of applause for you, please.
The chairperson, panel, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. The motion before the House today is that Africa would become a world superpower if budget on science and technology outweighs all other sectors of the economy. And we on side opposition are strongly against this motion that Africa would become a world superpower if we neglect other sectors of our economy and focus the bulk of our resources on promoting science and technology, all in the name of becoming a world superpower. That is what we are against. We are not against the policy of investing money in science and technology. What we are against is the policy of investing the bulk of our monies in science and technology at the neglect of other very important sectors of the economy, just in the name of becoming a world superpower. We are against the policy of investing all our money like North Korea, investing all our money like India, all into science technology just to become a world superpower, just to promote our nuclear stockpile, just to become a world superpower, when the majority of our people are living in poverty, when we are not solving the core issues that will really make us develop, but we are focusing on what? Becoming a world superpower. We are not against the policy of science and technology promoting development. What we are against is that we should not devote all our resources to science and technology just in the name of becoming a world superpower. So I'll give you the definition for a world superpower. I'll give you the definition for who a world superpower is. I'll define some key terms in the motion, and I'll tell you what an increased budget in science and technology means for Africa. And I'll tell you why this would not even make Africa a world superpower in the first place, why it is not something we should go into. So, Mr. Speaker, a superpower is a country that is able to exert influence over other parts of the world globally. It is able to dictate the world order. It controls the financial systems of the world. It controls the military systems of the world. It has vast military holdings in major parts of the world. That is what a superpower is. So it means that if Africa is going to become a superpower, and if you are going to promote science and technology just to become a superpower, then it means this science and technology we are going to be investing in, this science and technology and innovation we are going to be investing in, is going to be channeled towards becoming a superpower. What do you do to become a superpower? Most countries, the US, Russia, recently North Korea, in their bid to become superpowers, are focusing the bulk of their science and technological resources into what? Nuclear arsenals. Nuclear arsenals. And North Korea, for instance, has suffered the penalty for it. Majority of its people still languish in poverty. They still live in stark poverty. But North Korea has been able to develop nuclear missiles with science and technology, when majority of the people are still there. And we think this is not something Africa should do. Africa has the poorest population in the world. We don't think that we should focus all our resources on science and technology just to become a world superpower, when we could focus our resources on science and technology that could be able to develop our people and bring them out of poverty. So I'm now going to give you some characteristics of a world superpower. Now, a superpower must have a large population size. A superpower should possess a very strong economic might. A superpower's military should be unrivaled. A superpower should be able to exert considerable political and diplomatic influence on the global stage. Now let us take the case study of the United States. The United States is the third largest country in the world by population. It is the third largest country in the world by size. The United States is the world's largest economy. As per capita income, according to the World Bank, is $54,000 US. America's military superiority remains unrivaled in the world. The US alone accounts for 37% of global military spending. If Africa would want to become a superpower, it means we are going to enter into a competition with countries like the USA, Russia, because indeed, that is the theory of international relations. That is the theory of power in international relations. Your military might, it is a very critical thing if you want to become a superpower. So if Africa, which has majority of its people languishing in poverty, if Africa, which is faced with the problems of chronic mismanagement, endemic poverty, endemic corruption, is going to rival the US, then it means the monies we are going to use to lift the majority of our people from poverty, the money we are going to use to tackle issues of corruption, to tackle issues of public infrastructure, to tackle issues of poor education, sanitation, we are going to spend the bulk of that money in what? Developing our military might. And that is not something we are for. We are going to spend the bulk of that money in innovations that would make us what? A military power that can rival the US. How is that going to be done? How is that going to be done? It means we are going to take all our monies, invest it in those fields, while the majority of our people languish in poverty. And we tell you that that is not what a state, that is not what a continent like Africa at this time of our developmental state should be looking for. We should focus on the core issues that would what? Lift the majority of the people from the masses before we go into the issues of becoming a world superpower. But indeed, even if we would want to invest in science and technology, we tell you that this kind of science and technology we are going to be investing in is not something that is even going to make Africa become a world superpower in the first place. And we are going to tell you why. We tell you that first of all, there's a problem of endemic corruption and chronic mismanagement in Africa, as I mentioned to you earlier on. Africa, particularly Sub-Saharan Africa, has been independent for the past half century. Meanwhile, majority of the people continue to remain impoverished. There is no proper framework for governance in Africa. Most of our leaders are corrupt. Former president of Nigeria, Sani Abacha, at the time of his death, was worth $20 billion. How an African president can be worth such an amount is only due to corruption. So until and unless we deal with the issues of corruption in Africa, we cannot aim to become a world superpower just by investing the bulk of our resources in science and technology. We tell you that that is not something that is going to work. Even countries such as South Africa and Egypt, which in Africa have the bulk of their resources devoted to science and technology, are still facing poverty. And we tell you that that alone is not something we can do. Second is the issue of the balkanization and fragmentation of Africa. This is Africa composing of about 54 or 55 different states. States which have different economies, states which have different countries. When you look at a superpower like US, the US has its dollar. The US has a single currency, although the US is technically speaking made up of states which could be referred to as countries, but all these countries are under one federal government. And we tell you that if Africa is to become a world superpower, it is not investing all our monies or the bulk of our monies into science and technology alone. It is what? Focusing on the core issues of what? Trading amongst ourselves as Africans. It is focusing on the core issues of what? Bringing Africans together. It is focusing on the core issues of what? Promoting a common currency such that we can be able to what? Trade inwardly and trade outwards. When you take the dollar, for instance, the US dollar accounts for 80% of the world's trade. 80% of the world's trade is conducted in the US dollar. So if Africa would want to rival the US dollar, it is not about just investing in science and technology when there are other important things to do. It is about what? Focusing on these core issues, developing a common currency, developing more closer cooperation between these countries, and that is what we think can work. After we are done lifting the masses of people from poverty, after we are done promoting more integration of Africa, then we can focus on the secondary issue of becoming a world superpower. Because indeed, North Korea can never become a world superpower because it has neglected the core issues of poverty, core issues of democracy, core issues of freedom in their country. They have neglected it and they are focusing all their arsenals at nuclear weaponry, which will make them what? A world superpower. With this, we are proud to oppose.
Thank you very much.
Wide wings and leak guards. Yes, sanitary pads give you maximum comfort, hygiene and protection in a resealable pack.
We've got Yas Protect.
protection. Yes, sanitary pads. Maximum protection, maximum confidence.
Don't worry, we've got Yas protection.
Panel, the House. Our problem today is very simple. We are not saying that we should focus on science and technology at the neglect of other sectors of the economy. We are basically saying that why should science and technology be given much premium as far as other sectors are concerned? So this is basically an issue of priority. This hasn't got to do with picking one side and leaving another side to directly or automatically deteriorate. So we find it very misleading if opposition comes to tell us that when we focus on science and technology, we are actually going to neglect other sectors. Even on that issue of neglection, 2 levels of engagement. They tell us that when we focus on, we are going to neglect other nations, other sectors, which will actually lead to poverty. We are saying that, look, on a scale of priority and a scale of actually comparison, we are saying that other sectors are necessary. We are not saying they are not necessary. We are saying that should we pick between science and technology and any other sector, science and technology should be picked first and much resources pushed into that aspect first. And we are also saying that science and technology at the second level of engagement on that particular topic, science and technology is very important as far as that is concerned because it has effect. This is where my principal speaker comes to tell you, as far as we invest in it, it's going to cut across. So, for instance, should we draw a Venn diagram where all the other sectors of economy are projected, you realize that science and technology is going to cut across all the areas. So an investment in science and technology is actually going to result in ripple effects, which will bring about the development they are actually saying. Then they come to tell us that they limit the entire concept of science superpower to being nuclear amalgamation and nuclear power and military power. This is where my principal speaker again then comes to tell you early on that, look, according to the definition he gave, which was actually a quote from Dr. Lehman Miller, we are saying that, look, there are actually 4 levels of 4 paramount key players as far as being a superpower is concerned. That is military, that is economy, that is political, and that is cultural sectors. Now, we are not limiting being a superpower to only military power. So if they come to limit our argument to being a superpower, we are asking what happens to the other 3 sectors. On their level of politics, where they say Africa is a very corrupt state, they chair the house. It's very simple. Even in kindergarten, should you organize an election, the kids will still read. Corruption exists at every single level. Even US, that is a superpower, there are officials that are still corrupt. It's all about managing it. But then on the issue of corruption, our engagement with them is basically an issue of institutionalization. So this has got to do with science and technology being a threat or making people corrupt. This has got to do with the sectors that are actually responsible, institutions that are actually responsible to see that corruption is actually mitigated and not necessarily say because Africans are corrupt. And even corruption is an institutional inherent. So it hasn't got anything to do with development as far as technology is concerned. Then again, they tell us that superpower is basically about rivalry. So if Africa is a superpower, Africa again then goes to rivalry. We are saying that superpower goes beyond being rivalry. Superpower enables countries to rub shoulders together. A typical analogy is monkeys playing by side. You see, US can never go to attack North Korea now because they know North Korea has nuclear amalgamation. So in as much as they want to actually attack them, they wouldn't add that anything because they know they have a tendency of being able to retaliate. That is what we are wanting to create for Africa also. So when we invest in science and technology, Africa then also has a bragging right. This in the long run goes to prevent coercion and inducement, which are actually ways the superpowers choose to monopolize and bully smaller continents and smaller countries. You see, when we actually invest in all these sectors, we also have rubbing shoulders, and that element of coercion and inducement will actually be mitigated. Again, they tell us that there's going to be, they tell us that Africa, they are considering Africa to be 54 states. We are considering Africa to be a single unit. But even if we should go by their analysis, we are saying that is where there are tendencies of what? Realism and the new realism as far as international politics and international relations is concerned. So with the hope of the new realism, we are saying that Africa innately has this element of coming together to stand as one. And if science and technology is what is going to offer us that, then it's very important we go about it and actually invest in such sectors. Now, to the last point my principal speaker stated when he spoke about why if we don't go for science and technology, there are disadvantages that will come across. We are saying there's going to be inefficiency in other sectors. We realize that every sector, as far as our economy is concerned, relies massively on science and technology. We need to actually research the knowledge we obtain from those research. We need to know how to apply them to solve the problems in those various sectors. If this is not science and technology, then what then is it? Is this magic Purely, this is science technology, and that is the main reason we should go into it. And we tell you that there's going to be dependency on superpowers. If we don't actually invest in science technology to solve our own problem, we then go to depend on these sectors. And when we depend on these sectors, they actually take to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First, supporting speaker against the motion. A round of applause.
Mr. Chairperson, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen. A quick grammar lesson to the opposition side. The motion clearly tells us that Africa would become a superpower if the budget on science and technology outweighs all sectors of the economy. The major word here being outweighs. Mean when something outweighs the other, it goes to the detriment of that. The major sectors of the economy that we know, we have health, we have engineering, we have agriculture, and other sectors of the economy. Technology and science also falls as part of the sectors of the economy. So if we decide to focus on science and technology, it means to the detriment of the other sectors of the economy. Also, some clarity on Africa being one unit. It is true, we all hope that Africa is going to be one unit, Africa is going to be united. But the truth of the matter, the status quo, is that Africa is not yet a unit. So why then push to be a superpower when we don't even agree with ourselves? When we speak 1,000 different languages, when we have differences between us, why then do we push to be a superpower when we can't even solve our problems internally? So they fail on that argument. Now, I'll give you some rebuttals on their case, then I give you some extensions from what my principal speaker said. What they tell us, their justification is that power is very important in international relations. But we ask you, do we fight for this power at the expense of other sectors of the economy? We say no to that. I asked you 3 very important questions in this debate. 1, do we all want Africa to be a superpower? We say yes. Will we be happy if Africa has the bragging rights to be able to stand in the global market and chant and be proud of itself? We say yes. But is this the way to go? Do we neglect the other sectors of the economy? Do we neglect the other basic things like maternal health, like the bad things that are happening in Africa, and then push for Africa to be a superpower? We say no. That's the problem we have with this motion today. They give you 4 key points that make a nation a superpower. First thing being economical development. Second thing being the military prowess of the nation. Third thing being the political power that they have, and then the 4th thing being the culture. Also, the major thing we see here is that when North Korea is being talked about as a superpower, when USA is being talked about as a superpower, it's not their economic development, it's not the culture that they possess, but then the major thing people focus on is the missiles and then the power, the military power that they possess. So no, we are not focusing our debates on the military power. But then when you talk about a superpower, then it is mainly pushed to the sector of the military power that the people possess. So what do I bring to you in this debate? On rebuttals, first they tell us that Africa has suffered over the years. That is why it is necessary for Africa to become a superpower. We say yes, Africa has suffered, but do we need to become a superpower to alleviate that suffering? We say no to that. We have other problems in Africa. We have fragmentations, we have little divisions that we've not been able to solve. Why then push to rub shoulders with the USAs, the Russias, and things who have a higher level, a higher standard of living for their people? We say for shame to that. Also, they also tell us that the importance is brain drain prevention, to boost our local markets, to promote free trade, and to do other things. We tell you it is true, but then pushing to be a superpower is not going to alleviate these bad states that we have in Africa, and that is the problem we have with their case. What do we tell you? The detriments that this brings, that is pushing for this higher budget in science and technology, which is related to becoming a superpower, brings to Africa. We tell you that Africa has very important problems that she needs to focus on, like maternal mortality, like why people are being hungry in certain states, why people are suffering, why people are impoverished, and that is why we don't think it is necessary, it is urgent at this point in time to focus on things like being a superpower, to focus on things like rubbing shoulders with the US, rubbing shoulders with the Russia and other people. So what have we brought to you in this debate? First, we give you the criteria that makes a nation a superpower. Military being the first thing, like they mentioned. Economical prowess being the second thing, like they rightly mentioned. They talk about the culture, they talk about the political influence. First, some clarity again. Africa is not a nation. Africa is a continent with different fragmented, about 54 countries. So before we can even aim to become a superpower, we need to be able to establish that unity. We need to be able to get that singular currency, or at least some level of economic unity, before we can even decide to move to a superpower. So the 3 questions I asked in this debate: would we all be happy if Africa is being hailed like the US, like the Russia, like the Brazil and other states, yes, we will be happy. Is it right that Africa should go this way? Yes, it's very right. But then at this point in time, at this urgent time when we have people dying in slums, when you have people being hungry, when you have people suffering, is it necessary at this point in time for Africa to push to be a superpower at the detriment of other sectors of the economy, at the detriment of the health sector, at the detriment of the agricultural sector? They keep telling us that focusing on technology is going to improve those other sectors. We say, yes, focusing on technology in the direction of that sectors. But if you focus your technology on becoming a superpower, then it means you are going to be building missiles, you are going to be building more armies, you are going to be building sophisticated weapons, and that is the problem we have with them. We say Africa needs to become a superpower, but then we have problems we need to deal with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. So Africa has to concentrate on other things instead of just only trying to put science and technology as the main way of becoming the superpower, as said by our opposition team. All right. So we would like to acknowledge our sponsors before we move to the second supporting speaker for the proposition team. This show is proudly brought to you by Lexter Ghana Limited, producers of Yaz products. They have the Yaz toothpaste and the Yaz toothbrush. If you are looking for a toothbrush that goes into the very depth of your teeth, cleaning all the germs, cleaning all the debris of food you've eaten overnight, Yaz toothbrush is the best product on the market. And Capital O2, producers of Living Bitters and FCF, Female Corrective Formula. Living Bitters is full of herbal and natural products that are good for your health. And the FCF is good for ladies during their menstrual cycle. It helps to put your cycle on track, helps to take away cramps and everything that comes with your menstrual cycle. Okay, so we'll move to the second supporting speaker for the proposition team.
Focus being placed on science and technology does not necessarily mean we are neglecting the other sectors of economy. We are considering prioritization here. You draw a scale of preference and you have a choice. You choose the one which is going to benefit you. Outweighing doesn't necessarily mean neglection. Here a situation becomes advantageous of the opposing mention it, that even if outweighing the science and technology over the other sectors of economy is causing harm, then that one we are going to say is going to be a bad effect. But here the situation outweighing science and technology over the other sectors of economy is going to cause something good to us, that it is a necessary evil. The chair, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly observed. I am the person of Nancy Santua of University with the affiliation to Independence Hall, and I'm here as the second supporting speaker for the motion. What do we bring to you in this debate as proposition? We come here and we bring to you 4 burdens of proof. We come here and tell you why Africa should be a superpower. We come here and ask the question how science and technology is going to make Africa a superpower. Why science and technology should outweigh the other sectors of the economy. The benefits of Africa being a superpower, and also we run a what-if analysis on if we don't outweigh science and technology, what actually happens. So on why Africa should be a world superpower, we come here and we talk to you about rational choice theory and the cost-benefit analysis. We also go on to talk about the duty of protection and how it's going to help to restrict other hegemons from exerting their power on Africa's continent. On how science and technology should be a superpower, we come here to tell you that it's going to actually promote economic growth and stability in the various sectors of the economy, where we have agriculture, infrastructure, mining, and amongst others. We come here to tell you about how Africa is going to gain military strength as the position is stressed on. We also come here and we talk about how it's going to help us politically in respect to elections, and how it's going to help us culturally by investment. On why science and technology should outweigh the other sectors of the economy. We come here and we tell you how interdependent the other sectors of the economy is on science and technology. We stress on the fact that these sectors rely on science and technology. If we neglect science and technology, in as much as Africa would want to be a superpower, neglecting science and technology or not outweighing science and technology over the other sectors of the economy is actually going to be baseless, because science and technology is the order of the day at this moment. We come here and tell you that no superpower, as in looking at the other superpowers which already existed, no superpower has overlooked science and technology. They are dependent on science and technology to get to where they are. So if you want to get there, if Africa would want to be a world superpower, we are supposed to go through science and technology. We come here to tell you how it's going to enhance productivity and efficiency, and talk about the industrial revolution and the time factor, how technology helps to make things faster and easier. On the benefits of Africa being a superpower, we come here to tell you that it's going to prevent brain drain. We talk about how uninfluenced our decisions are going to be, how our indigenous industries are going to promote it, how our aim as Africa in getting free trade is going to promote it. We ran a massive analysis, science and technology, and I've never been proud of the group. Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, panel of judges, ladies and gentlemen, co-debaters, we are not against the use of technology, but then what the motion states is that Africa will not become a world superpower if budget on science and technology outweighs all sectors of the economy. Now, there's been a sort of confusion on our opponent side. I would like to clarify that. Now, the principal speaker comes in and talks about restricting other countries when we become a superpower. But we tell you that even with the level of our development, we've been able to restrict other countries from coming to us with our military forces, with our weapons and stuff. He also comes talking about being a superpower, having to do with military strength, economic strength, and political strength. But then we tell you that all these go hand in hand. You can't be a superpower when you allocate more budget or pump in more money into just one sector. If to become a superpower, you need your military strength, economic strength, and political strength. He talks about USA and Russia becoming superpowers. Now, these superpowers are not just superpowers because of their missiles and their nuclear weapons, but they are superpowers because they have the military strength, the economic strength. Their people have a high standard of living. There is not much poverty within the country, and the political strength. Now, we live in Africa where majority of people are poor. Almost 60% of our people living in Africa are very poor, and the standard of living here is very low. He comes to talk about North Korea and say that they are a superpower in terms of military strength. So therefore, Africa should also, the budget on science and technology should outweigh other sectors. Now, I'll give you an example of India. India is a country that has more weapons, nuclear weapons, but then yet its people are still living in poverty. Why isn't India a superpower? India is not a superpower because it lacks economic strength. Its people are living in poverty. There isn't much money that's pumped in other sectors for it to grow. We tell you from our side of the bench that to become a superpower, all these three going hand in hand: military strength, economic strength, and political strength. With the lack of one, there is no way you can become a superpower. Now, the first supporting speaker comes in and talks about parity, saying that the argument is based on parity, that more money should be pumped into science and technology. Yes, that's what this whole debate is about. It's about parity. Now, you prioritize one aspect of the economy than the other. One will progress at the expense of the other. For instance, if we take our individual day-to-day life and we pump in more money on our clothes, 70% of our daily earnings on our clothes and 30% on our education. Our clothes, what we wear, that aspect will actually progress at the expense of the other. So our education will go down. That's what this motion is about. That the budget on science and technology should outweigh other sectors. That means more money should pump into science and technology, and which other sectors should lack from it. And we are telling that if more money is pumped into science and technology alone, Africa cannot become a superpower. He also comes and talks about we should pump more money in science and technology because it will give us the bragging rights. Now, we tell you that before you become a superpower, you can't get bragging rights before you become a superpower. United States of America does not have the bragging rights it has now because it's just sprung up from one day and became a superpower. It's a superpower because now the people living in this country have a high standard of living. They didn't just invest into their political strength, military strength or their military alone, but then their people are living in a comfortable place, and they solved all their problems before they became a superpower. Our side, what we brought to you is that Africa is going through a lot. Their language barriers, we don't have one currency. So therefore, if we should invest into science and technology alone, there is no way we can become a superpower. And with this, we are proud to oppose.
We'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hear from our moderators.
I love Food Frosted Flakes because it's so crunchy and full of nutrients. All you need is milk. As usual, Mom.
9 minus 3, 2. That's it? Yes?
90!
With cereal flakes has 9 essential nutrients with no artificial additives or colors. Yes?
Food Frosted Flakes is rich in vitamin E, B12, iron, high in carbohydrates, fiber, protein, sodium, and it's very affordable.
Clap for him.
All you need is milk.
Hooch comes with 3 variants: Frosty Flakes, Choco Flakes, and Cornflakes. Each pack has 10 mini packs of 50 grams, and each box you buy comes with a free exercise book. Hooch is available in all supermarkets and retail shops. Hooch Frosty Flakes. All you need is milk.
My name is Ezekiel Adi from Legon Hall, University of Ghana. So my comment on the topic or the motion as Africa becoming a superpower through science and technology, I feel for me, there are lots of issues that we need to focus on aside science and technology. In as much science and technology has been revolutionary in other Western countries, that model cannot be replicated in our sense. When we take democracy, for example, Africa is struggling with democracy, even though democracy has promised to give people freedom and other forms of benefits. We see certain backlashes with democracy in our context of Africa as compared to Western democracies. So we need to clearly understand how science and technology can effectively be incorporated in our context to be able to benefit us, because the Western countries have been able to do that assessment and it has helped them in several revolutionary instances that they've had. But looking at our context, we've not been able to have that kind of assessment and research to clearly be definitive that this thing is going to work if we should take that risk on our continent.
My name is Isaac Selassie Haji. I personally don't dispute the fact that it's necessary for science and technology to be incorporated in our strive towards development. But then the point here is there are other issues that we need to deal with first. It's just like having a house. If you don't set up your foundation properly, there's no way the house is going to stand or last in the first place. Here's the case where we have endemic corruption in Ghana. Now, so no matter the amount, let me give you this analogy of a pipe, okay? So you have a pipe that's supposed to feed water to a fertile soil for it to grow. Now, so far as the water can get there, there will definitely be growth. But then there's a case where you have corruption which has created so many holes in the same pipe. So no matter the amount of money you pump through this pipe, because of the holes there, it's still not going to get there. So at the end of the day, you're actually not achieving the purpose for which you intend. So what I think is the approach should be to deal with the issues we have, the hole, so to speak, in this pipe, which is our the state of this continent. So once we can deal with these problems and set these structures up properly, then we can actually proceed with investing more in science and tech, and will actually be make more sense to speak and be beneficial, because then it would actually get to the intended place, and that would help.
Okay, my name is Victor Kwame from UPSC. I think the focus of the debate has been more on science and technology than the aspect of superpowers. The superpower aspect has been neglected, but then being a superpower is a matter of influence, and exerting military influence or military might is just one way of being a superpower. Now, if Africa is pursuing science and technology or prioritizing science and technology in order to become a superpower, then we are trying to be able to influence the world economically, culturally, and then technically. So in that event, Africa would be able to determine the prices of our cocoa, our oil, our gold, because we are a superpower.
All right, so those were the views of our ladies and gentlemen in the auditorium. A big round of applause for yourselves, please. Okay, so our moderators are done. They've collated their data, and they'll be telling us shortly which side has been able to convince us about the motion.
Once again, congratulations for a very stimulating debate this morning. Both sides did very, very well. We didn't have any of the sides interrogating the assumption within the statement itself that Africa would become a superpower if budget on science and technology outweighs all other sectors. And the underlying assumption here, which we both expected the teams to have interrogated, is the fact that should the budget outweigh the other sectors, then automatically focusing on science and technology was going to improve Africa or even make Africa a superpower. And that assumption was not clearly addressed. Judge 1 scored 4, that is all of KNUST, and then against, that is the Alex Kwapong Hall of University of Ghana. We start with one hall being awarded 26.5 and the other hall being awarded 18.5 by one judge, and then another 19.5 and 17.5. We had 38.0 and 44.0. The winner is the Alex Kwapong Hall. What we reckoned is the fact that both are great presenters, but we found great speakers on the side of the Independence Hall. You speak so well, but you need a little bit of passion and energy, not aggression, to back your presentation to get the audience really attracted and attentive to what you're saying. We found that the second speaker has great presentation skills, but then she spoke a little too fast for some of us. And so if she could pace it a little bit, that would have been helpful, but definitely a great presenter. And for the other side, almost all of you presented very well with the passion that needs to come with the presentation as well. And one of the things we observed was that in as much as you both spoke along the same lines, you were able to give us more points because you related the issue to the fact that Africa is fragmented. There is the need to address the issues of economic development, poverty, and other issues. You also spoke about management or mismanagement and the need for good governance and democracy. These issues were not clearly related to the topic in the other presentation, even though you have laid the premise that being a superpower was not only related to technology. You established that point very, very well. We had your strong point on prioritization, but prioritization was also rebutted, and the opposing bench indicated that if it is prioritization, then there are other areas of higher priority than becoming a superpower. So our understanding is that their emphasis was not on science and technology, but it was on the fact that Africa should become a superpower at a time when the fundamental premise and building blocks are not in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So those were the remarks from our moderators, and we congratulate Alex Kwapong Hall for winning today's debate. A big round of applause, please.